Brian Jones here, Director of Education and Conferences for the National Association of Certified Valuation Analysts, the Institute of Business Appraisers, and the Consultants Training Institute. I have with me here Diane Matthews, PhD, CPA, CFE, who is one of the instructors in our Forensic Accounting Academy. Diane is the Associate Dean for the School of Management at Carlow University in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. She is one of the lead instructors in this academy, and we're going to discuss with her about the techniques for investigating criminal and forensic matters by looking at how individuals communicate in detecting their deceptive behaviors. So Diane, tell us a little about your background and your experience.
I originally was in public accounting, went into banking and then manufacturing, retired, and started to teach, and the rest is history. Mm-hmm. I just love teaching. And since I'm an accountant, I started with the accounting program, and I was responsible for the accounting program. And then when all of the criminal effects were happening in the accounting industry, the Enrons of the world, the WorldComs, mm-hmm. the Delphi Cables, I said, we really need to be teaching our accountants how to look for fraud. And so that was back in 2003. And we started developing, at Carlow, I started developing a forensic accounting undergraduate degree. And so I worked with the big four public accounting firms, and I worked with some private forensic accounting firms, and came up with a curriculum for forensic accounting. And so that's how we all got into it, is that I saw the need out there in the marketplace for forensic accountants, and making sure that students, when they graduated, not only could be good accountants, mm-hmm. but could also know how to look for fraud.
So you mentioned that there has been a great prevalence of fraud and theft in our current climate, the mm-hmm. WorldComs, the Enrons, the Madoff scandals. Yeah. Are you surprised by the prevalence of these things in our culture, in our environment, that there isn't more emphasis on forensic accounting, or how to deter it or detect it, to prevent it?
I'm not surprised that it is occurring. I am surprised that we, as an academic community, which is where I am now, I'm surprised that we have not taken the steps to make sure to educate our undergraduates, in particular, in the forensic accounting area. And so that's why we at Carlow started an undergraduate program in forensic accounting, so that our graduates not only knew accounting, but they understood rules of evidence, they understood how to investigate fraud, they understood how to do interviews and interrogation when they came across fraud. And so I'm not surprised that it's happening. I'm surprised that we are behind the eight ball in training our potential accountants in the fraud area.
And your skill set is in detecting and investigating, specifically using behavioral techniques.
Yes, I teach behavioral analysis, of which I've had lots of training, and I've worked for District Attorney's Office in their fraud investigation unit, and I've done lots of interviews, and it has been fun. But yes, it's important that a person who's doing an interview or an interrogation be able to not only look at their verbal clues, but also their nonverbal clues. And so we do a lot of training in what is deceptive behavior, and what is a person doing, an interviewing doing, that tells you that they are being deceptive or truthful. Mm-hmm. And there are particular signs, such as I'm looking directly at you, facing you directly. That's a sign of a truthful person. If I were turning to the side and acting very nonchalant and not looking you in the eye, that would be more of a deceptive person. If I'm sitting here with my hands crossed like this, that's a barrier, that I'm trying to put a barrier between you and me. That's the sign of a deceptive person. But you also have to know what the idiosyncrasies of that person is. So you have to calibrate, get their baseline as to how they normally act. Do they normally talk with their hands the way that I do? That would be normal behavior then in an interview. Do they normally not talk with their hands? Then that would be normal behavior. So you have to look at both the verbal and particularly the nonverbal, because that makes up over 50%. Some experts say 66% of communication is nonverbal. And so you really have to pay attention to those clues.
So I understand that the mission statement or the philosophy behind the Forensic Accounting Academy is the art and science of investigating people and money. And this skill that you're bringing to these participants is really on the people side, the investigative side.
Right.
What are some of the techniques that you discuss in your class, and what are some of the training tools or exercises that you incorporate so that it drills that home with them?
I'll do the training tools first. Some of the training tools we use, well, of course, we go through all the different signs of truthful behavior, deceptive behavior. We go through all of that. But we also show a TV show that's called Lie to Me. And that is based off of Paul Ekman, who is a psychologist, famous psychologist, who has done a lot of facial mapping and what does the face tell you, plus what do your hands tell you, and a lot of other things. But at any rate, he contributed a lot to the study of lying. And so the show, Lie to Me, is based on Paul Ekman's research. And so the show actually goes into looking at cases and seeing that a person is lying. And it also goes back to current times. It'll cut in and it will show you something currently that happens, like Bill Clinton. They have clips of Bill Clinton in there, and it's showing that, okay.
The whole thing with, I did not speak
right.
that woman, that famous.
Yes, yes. And he's pointing one way and looking another way. That's a deceptive behavior. And so the show does that, which is really good because then it really shows the current things that are happening that the show is trying to teach you. So we do that. We also use Reed and Associates. They teach interview and interrogation, and they have given NACFA permission to use 4 15-minute clips that they have about verbal behavior, nonverbal behavior, and in their 9 steps of interrogation. And so we go over all of that in the class. So those are some of the things that we use in the class itself.
And so your piece dovetails into, it is an overview of some of the other highlights of the program. Can you give us the highlight of those individual pieces and how it all interconnects to your day of teaching?
Well, we do. I'm not sure how to answer that particular question. But basically, we look at the tapes. We do some role playing in the end. We select a student from the class, and the other students have to determine. They have to calibrate her or him and determine if they are lying or not. And so we have it set up that the person knows when to lie and when not to lie. And so they have to actually use the skills that they learned in the class in the end to determine if it's a lie or not a lie. We use something called Turning Point. It's a software where we have what we call clickers, and we answer questions anonymously about what they have learned. So it reinforces what they learned about verbal, nonverbal, overall behavior analysis, rules of evidence for the courtroom, expert witness testimony. We go over that. And so our clickers, that we call them, and everybody loves those, they really help to reinforce, and we teach new materials using the clickers also, so that they know what the correct answer is, because you get a chart that shows you how everybody answered, and then you get the right answer. It shows on the screen too what the right answer is. And so it really reinforces. It's a lot of fun. I think the day is a very interactive day with a lot of different things, because we have the television show, we use the Reed tapes, we use the clickers, we do some in-class exercises as far as fraud cases, and we analyze the fraud cases. We analyze statements that were taken after a person confesses, and how good is the statement, what should be in the statement, what should be out of the statement. And so we use a lot of different ways of teaching in the behavior analysis, interview, and interrogation day.
That's fascinating. It sounds like not only very relevant to the experience, but just energizing and fun, something that's really not your traditional way of learning.
Well, I tell everybody this is their fun day. Yeah. So they get a lot of that, rather than in the other days they're getting a lot of techniques to use, a lot of analysis to use, data mining. So we really do the entire gamut from beginning to end on how to investigate, and they really take away a lot of good information that they can use immediately.
That's extremely important, especially when you're wanting to grow your practice and get back to your office and share those skills with your colleagues and to apply them to your clients and your cases. Thank you so much, Diane. We appreciate your time.
You're welcome.
And we look forward to future training opportunities with you.
I enjoy it. It's been a lot of fun, and this particularly has really been fun for me.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.